Hello, friends, and welcome back to Market Shares. I'm your host, Tony Blodgett, and I thought it appropriate today to talk about the survey results from the National Association of Realtors 2025 survey. This is some very interesting information, and we're just going to dedicate this podcast to going over some of these numbers and results because I think it's very telling about what's going on in the market today. So whether you're a real estate agent, whether you're a mortgage professional, I think understanding these statistics is going to be important to your business. And I think for some people, because things have changed so much in the makeup and demographic of today's home buyer, I bet you there's people out there, maybe you're one of them, who has focused your attention in an area that historically has done very well, but maybe now there's not as much opportunity there. And that's why I want to go through these stats today, because I think that it may help you tweak a little bit where you're putting your attention in the market. So let's jump right into this. And the first thing that jumps off the page for me with this most recent survey, and again, this is the National Association of Realtors 2025 survey of home buyers, and there's some seller information too, which I'll touch on a little bit. But prior to 2008, you guys, the average percentage of homes that were purchased by first-time home buyers was just over 40%. So 40% of all sales were from a first-time home buyer. And currently that number, and for some of you this may not surprise you, for some of you it may be shocking, is down over 50%, and we're currently at 21% of purchases are from first-time home buyers. And more than that, the average age of the first-time home buyer has increased from the low that we saw back in like the 80s. So I'm going way back. But back in the 80s, this was like the mid-20s. And it slowly crept up. I remember just a few years ago, the average age was about 33 years old, the average first-time home buyer. Now it's up over 40. So the average first-time home buyer is over 40 years old, and they make up just over 20% of the purchasing market. And that's the first thing that I would ask you to take inventory of. I mean, is your business strategy built around first-time home buyers? Because if it is, the market opportunity has shrank significantly. And I'm going to get into who is buying the largest percentage of homes here in a second. And it might mean that we need to tweak our approach just a little bit. I'm also going to share with you where real estate agents are getting their business. And it's not from the places where I see real estate agents spending most of their time, right? Social media being one of them. So first of all, average first-time home buyer down to 21%. Now, this is also just sad, to be honest with you. This will have ripple effects for generations to come, because when someone purchases a home when they're in their early or mid-20s, they have all of those years to build equity, right? They have that opportunity as they are starting a family to, grow the size of their family while they're growing equity, and then have that money to put down on their next home. And that's where you get the typical first-time home buyer. Then you got the move-up buyer. Then they're buying their dream home or the home that they stay in typically for a very long time. And then you have that move-down buyer at some point. And that all generates activity, not just within the housing market, but this generates activity throughout the whole economy. And we just aren't going to see as many transactions happening because people will move less often because they're not even getting into their first home until they're into their mid-40s in many cases. So do know that this has ripple effects across the economy that I think we haven't even seen, yet to play out. So they surveyed people purchasing their first home, and they asked them why they purchased. And 40% of people that purchased a home in 2025 that were surveyed said it was just the right time, which is a very interesting answer to that question. It just was the right time for them to purchase. 40% of them. 20% said that they needed to, like they had no other choice at that time but to purchase a home. And maybe they couldn't find a rental in their area, whatever the case may be. They felt like they had to make the move. So that makes up 60% of the overall people surveyed. And then 13% said it was the best time to purchase because of the available inventory on the market. So maybe they'd been looking for a while, there was no inventory, then there was more inventory available, and they felt like it was the best time because of the availability of the home that they wanted. Now, contrast that with only 4% that said that it was the right time to purchase because of affordability, okay? So most people, only 4% said, most people did not purchase because it was a great time to purchase from an affordability standpoint. Only 4% of people surveyed said that, but also only 4% of people surveyed said that they wish they would have waited to purchase. So that's good. That means that although it wasn't the most affordable time, they bit the bullet, they bought it, and most people, 96% of them felt like it was the right time. They did not regret their decision. Median, so now we're talking about sellers for a second. The median tenure in a home right now is 11 years. Now, this number historically was, 5 to 7 years for a very long time. So we know with the advent of COVID and the really low interest rates, people are staying in their homes longer. Well, that's definitely evidenced in the stats here. 11 years, just last year, that was 10 years. So it's continuing to increase. People are staying in their homes longer. Now, this does, in my opinion, create an opportunity for people to do refinance transactions that may be geared towards home improvements, right? Or even second mortgages where maybe they don't want to get rid of their lower interest rate. They may want to pull out some of their equity because over the last 10, 11 years, they've been in that home. They definitely have equity and they may not want to move, but they may decide they want to make improvements. They want to add on to the home, things of that nature. So I think there's opportunity there. And you guys, look, you've heard me talk about this for months now on the podcast. There are cash out opportunities for people, even if they don't want to get rid of their low interest rate. It may be financially beneficial for them to do that because of other debt that they may have accumulated while they've been living in that home now for, like I said, the medium time frame is 11 years. 80% said that buying a home was a great investment. So I think this is interesting, and it's good to hear that the people that have been buying homes feel like it's a great investment. Over 40% of them suggested that it is a better investment than investing in the stock market. 35% that they feel like it was a better investment than even putting money in the stock market. Now, I think if the average homeowner understood how leverage works and the fact that you can put 10% down on a home, and then you control that whole value of that asset. And then when that goes up in value, you're making money. When you look at the percentage you gain based on what you actually invested, the down payment and your monthly carrying costs, I think it far outweighs the stock market. But even the average consumer said that they felt like 35% of them felt like it was a better investment than the stock market. Now, as far as where people are finding their real estate agents, this is very telling as well. 66% of people found their agent from one of two places. Either a referral from a friend or family, or because they had done a transaction with that person in the past. Which to me are kind of in the same category, right? A referral, a repeat client, like those are all due to, the relationship and the customer service that you may have provided to them or the person who referred them in the past. So 66% were referral or repeat. That's very telling. Take note of that. It's all the more reason, like I said, to stay in touch with your database. Whether you're a loan officer or a real estate agent, this has never been more important than ever. We think that the personal relationships maybe aren't as valuable in today's day and age, but the evidence proves otherwise. Here's where people are not getting business. Direct mail, Less than 2% of people found their real estate agent through direct mail. Social media, where they did not previously have a relationship with that person, is 1%. So think about how much effort and energy is being put into social media posts and the things that we do. Look, I'm doing it right now, right? I'm recording a podcast right now, putting out content via social media. This alone is not enough, right? Social media on its own, we've said this for years, but it's proven in the numbers that people don't just cold call someone because they thought that they had a great social media presence. Now, I think that it can deepen other relationships, and I'm actually going to talk about this in another episode. Kind of like the strategy today is you have to communicate with people in multiple different mediums, one of which is social media. But it alone will not bring in the business. It's all relationships. It goes back to the fact that this is a relationship business. And I think it's just very interesting that the numbers play out that way. Also, 1% came from mailers, such as the calendars that you might get in the mail from a real estate agent, or direct mail, right? Someone sells a home in your neighborhood, they send out a blast to the whole market. That would be like an unsolicited, there's no relationship there, type of a mailer. 1% of the people found their agent through those types of mediums. So again, this is back where we reflect on our strategy as salespeople, as mortgage and real estate professionals. What are we putting our time, effort, and energy into, and our money, frankly, right? What are we investing money in? What it should be is in our past clients and their referrals, right? Their opportunity to refer us. Median age of the average buyer. This is interesting. Median age of the average buyer, 59 years old, up from 56 years old in last year's survey. So this number keeps increasing. Now, this is interesting. Take note of this. So we talked about first-time home buyers being 21% of the market, and so many people have for years targeted first-time home buyers. But 25% of buyers were age 65 to 74. And another 20%, so 45% of the market, almost half of people buying homes, the other 20% were 55 to 64. So between 55 and 74, that makes up 45% of the buyers today. These are probably all almost move-up buyers or people moving to be closer to their family. That was one of the top reasons people gave to move or to buy a new home, is to be closer to their friends and family. Matter of fact, being closer to work used to be one of the biggest drivers, and it no longer is. I can look on the article here and pull up that stat here in a second. But that's interesting, right? I mean, is your marketing, is your advertising that you're doing, are you gearing it towards the half of the market that is over 55 years old? Are they on some of the social media platforms that you're on? They're probably on Facebook, but are they on Instagram, where so many people have turned their focus to? Are you missing out perhaps on some of the active buyers in today's market? That's why knowing these statistics are important to helping you with your strategy. Now, I would hope that there will be a time where the first-time home buyer age goes down and they make up a larger percent of the overall, purchasing body. But that's not where it's at today. So we got to be mindful of that and gear our strategies towards that. A few other facts that came up. Married couples still make up the majority of buyers at 61%, with our single women making up 21%, just crushing those single guys that only make up 9%. So more than double the amount of single women are purchasing homes than single men. I think that stat is interesting. So a few other things that were on here that I thought that I would touch on. I talked about direct mail and how weak that is. Open houses for real estate agents, only 2% of buyers said that they met their agent at an open house. People spend a lot of times sitting in open houses. And look, I'm sure you make a lot of contacts. I'm just telling you what the survey says. Not a lot of people are choosing their agent because of an open house. And the majority of them are repeat and referral. That was kind of the bulk, you guys, of what I wanted to touch on. Obviously, you can go read this article for yourself, but I'm sure many of you are just sitting back in your car listening to this podcast, and hopefully you found this to be super informative information. And I would ask you to give it some thought. When you think about these stats, take inventory of your business strategies and say, am I lining myself up with where the buyers and sellers are in today's market? And if you're not, think about maybe making some adjustments. What tweaks can you do to your strategy to actually put yourself in front of the people that are transacting in today's world? And for those of you that are out there that are, young, people that want to be first-time home buyers, look, stick with it. I'm hopeful that opportunity will turn around. One of the stats that I didn't write down, but that I remember from the article is that the average first-time home buyer puts 10% down for the purchase of their home. To me, that's surprising. I thought that number would be a lot lower. I think a lot of first-time home buyers still don't know that there is opportunities to do very little down payment when you're purchasing a home. The average move-up buyer put 23% down on their purchase. That doesn't surprise me nearly as much because they would have equity from their previous home. And all cash buyers still sit at around 30% of all purchases are all cash. So if you're a first-time home buyer waiting on the sideline and you're doing it because you think you need 10 or 20% down, well, that right there could be a reason to reach out to a mortgage and real estate professional and just see if there might be opportunities for you, because very few people, even in this market right now, purchase a home and regret it. Everybody purchases a home and feels good about it, to the point that almost 80% of them would say that it is a great investment, in addition to being a stable place for your family to settle in, raise your kids, so on and so forth, become part of a neighborhood, a community, etc. We know all the other benefits of homeownership. So you guys, hope this was helpful. Hope you enjoyed this episode. If you do, consider subscribing to the page. That's really going to help me out so that other people can find this content. And keep in mind, we drop out a new episode every single Friday at 10 a.m. Pacific time, and I will see you then. Take care.